Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second EMEA Marketing Community Call. And thank you for joining. As you can see, we've decided to employ our Venue virtual events platform for today's meeting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because we wanted to use its features to great effect to make the event much more compelling and interactive for you. But secondly, also, as you're our primary customers for this platform, to demonstrate some of the features that we think add great interaction to it and make for more compelling events as you start to think and plan how you use it in the future. So let's move to look at today's agenda. After my brief introduction, I'm going to introduce Runa McLeod, who's going to give you a brief update on the Empower Digital Marketing Training Initiative, which launches this week. We'll then move for the bulk of the call to look at Venue as a platform and the program we're using to support it. And Runa will be joined by Tony Riley, the Marketing Director of Comstore EMEA, who used it very effectively for their recent Comstore Cisco FY21 kickoff. We'll conclude with the first of our Market Star Awards. I mentioned on the last call, we're making a regular recognition award for individuals that have made a great contribution and demonstrated great commitment to the idea of the marketing community. And then we'll close with a review of topics for potential future calls and a few closing remarks. There'll also be a survey at the end to give you a chance to offer some feedback. Let's move to the next slide. I mentioned on the last call, and in fact we followed up with a survey talking about the initiatives that we were pursuing as a central marketing team and asking you to comment on the relative priority of those ideas and those initiatives to you and your local marketing teams. And we also offered you the opportunity to put yourself forward as potential contributors and participants in projects that we were working on in the future. The results of that survey indicated that there was significant interest around our two main topics today. The first of those being digital marketing and the training and development we're putting in place to assist you in your understanding and expertise in pursuing those techniques. And the second, not surprisingly, given the current circumstances, was virtual events. And again, as I said, we'll touch on both of those topics in much more detail in the course of today's call. What we're going to do first is to hear from myself, or at least a version of myself, as a means of introducing the Empower training program, and in particular, how it relates to our company strategy. So enjoy this, I know I did, and we'll catch up afterwards. Hi, I'm Paul Cunningham, Chief Marketing Officer of Westcon Comstore, and welcome to our Empower Digital Marketing Training Program. This is the key element in our company-wide strategy of Digital First. Digital First means, as a company, we will always prioritize digital thinking and technology to drive better outcomes for our customers, our vendor partners, and for you, our people. So what does Digital First as a strategy mean for us in the marketing team? The fact that you're in this program today is evidence that the way the world in general, and our market in particular, learns, thinks, acts, and shares is increasingly digital. To marketing as a discipline, it helps us move faster, reach further, and measure our impact more than we ever could before. It also has additional strategic benefits when we relate it to other elements of the company strategy. For example, we know that our customers are also acting in the same way and engaging digitally in the way that they search for, procure, and use technologies. Our data-driven strategy increasingly depends on the use of digital technologies. Essentially, you can't do digital without data, and vice versa. It both creates useful data as well as consuming it. So there's a strong interdependency with that element of the strategy. And finally, our vendors want us to go further and faster than we ever have before in terms of developing their position in the channel and in the marketplace. At the same time, we have to recognize that we can't digitize or automate absolutely everything that we do as part of the marketing process. And the need for strategic thinking and consistent planning remains as strong as ever. The Empower program is designed to help you achieve both things, combining technology and process to get the results that you need. So enjoy the experience, share your insights with us, and let's continue working together to improve marketing at Westcon Comstor. Thank you. Okay, well, as a child, I was a huge fan of Marvel Comics, and I always wanted to be a comic character, but that wasn't quite what I had in mind. So the moral is be careful what you wish for. But nice work by Runa and the studio team in getting that together. And you'll see more evidence of that creativity and great design work as you engage with the training program itself. With that, I'm going to ask Runa to talk us through Empower as a program. It's launching imminently, as you know, and how you can engage further with it and what you'll get from it. So Runa, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Empower Paul. Good morning, everybody. Very excited to be here on our Venue platform this morning, and also excited to be talking about our Empower program. As Paul mentioned, this is launching this week, in fact, tomorrow. And hopefully Empower isn't new for you at the moment by now. You know, we've spent some time last week on some of the launch sessions, and hopefully you've seen some of the launch communications. But so today we're really just going to recap on why we have created the Empower program and what you can expect to get from it. So as Paul mentioned, Empower is very much aligned to the company's strategy, and we see it as a key driver to help us shape and build our skills to support that digital first approach, to become more data driven in our marketing. I think it's a really important and significant investment in our people, and specifically in you, the marketing community. The program has been very much tailored for this community. So the topics that we choose to focus on, we believe, are very relevant to you. The people involved in building the program are from this community, and I want to thank them actually for the efforts that they've put into to building the program this far. And I see the involvement in shaping and evolving the program expanding in this community as we continue to grow it. But the training that we're delivering here is very contextual to the business that we're in, and specifically to our marketing function. As you know, Empower is a digital learning program. It's built actually on the same technology that we're using today with Venue. So we've created a dedicated digital learning platform, and on this we will unlock new content each month, which hopefully makes it more digestible for you to consume and to experience and to learn, but also enables us to be fairly agile and flexible and actually introduce new topics as they become relevant for the business, or, you know, in line with your feedback and things that you want to prioritize. And a really good example of this is the virtual events training that we have now incorporated into the program and will be releasing next month. And I'll touch on that later on in the next session. So Empower's, you know, as I said, is a significant program for us, an important initiative, which we're looking really to help drive improvement in the effectiveness of our marketing and its performance. So in terms of the program itself and what it will deliver, when you log on to the portal, it will look very much like the image that you can see there on screen. And there are 4 key learning tracks which take you from an introduction to marketing at our business, gives you an opportunity to recap on our strategy and familiarize yourself with that. And then we really deep dive into digital marketing, digital platforms, and a number of core topics which we've pulled together under the banner of Marketing Essentials. So in the first release, you'll be able to access the digital marketing modules that focus on strategic planning. Through the digital platforms track, we'll look at working with our creative studio, how to pull together an effective creative brief, how to manage your projects effectively. And then on the next release, we will be looking to add to that, looking at customer and competitive insights, looking at our marketing automation platform, Pardot, and analytics. And also, as I just mentioned, we'll be releasing a number of training modules around virtual events. So The training, as I mentioned, is on demand. You can access it wherever and whenever you want. There's a number of additional useful resources that you can find on the portal. And as Paul said, we want to have a bit of fun with this as well. I think the content is very valuable, but there'll also be a number of ways for you to have some fun through different interactive elements, incentives and prizes to encourage you and to reward you along the way. And so in terms of next steps and some key call outs, we are launching tomorrow. You will get an email which will give you all the information you need to access the portal. So you can log on to that, you can update your profile, and you can get going with the training. We've also set up a new Empower channel on Microsoft Teams. So you should have already seen that, and I would just encourage you to turn on your notifications as we'll be posting content and messaging through that channel. If for any reason you're thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't heard of Empower, I haven't seen any of these communications, please let us know and we can make sure that you're onboarded to the programme. And indeed, if you have any new colleagues that join over the coming weeks or months that this is relevant for them, also please let us know and we'll make sure that they're onboarded to the programme. Outside of that, if you do have any questions or suggestions, there is an opportunity for you to ask them today. But the Empower email address that you see there will come through to the project team. Of course, you can reach out to me directly. And there's plenty of opportunity to feedback around those training content, around the experience you get through the platform, within the platform itself. And I would really encourage you to do that. We absolutely want to know what you think, and that will help us to continue to evolve and shape the programme as we move forward. So I do hope you find it useful. Thanks again to the guys who've helped make this happen. Have some fun with it, and yeah, let us know what you think. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move to taking some questions around the Empower program itself. I'm not sure if anything has come through in the Q&A.
There's a few questions already, Runa. So let's take them in order they came in, actually, which the first one's a fairly sort of technical question. Is Empower an app or web-based or a bit of both?
It's not an app as such, it's web-based. You can access it from any device, however. So if you want to access the training on your mobile phone, you can do that. If you want to access it through your PC, and that's absolutely fine as well.
Okay.
Either or, yeah.
Great. And the next question we had was, how will that content evolve? You talked about a kind of monthly drop-in of new content. So how do you see that evolving over time?
Well, so we already have quite a clear roadmap on some of the content topics. And when you go onto the portal, you'll be able to see those subjects. You won't be able to access them, but they literally become unlocked each month. So you'll be able to kind of get a view of that roadmap that we see. But as I mentioned, new topics do come up and become important to the business. And again, virtual events, I'll go back to that as a good example of where we have had to adapt, and we recognise that we need to invest some time on training and developing our capabilities. But equally, if you think there is a burning topic or theme that you want to explore, then I would really encourage you to let us know, and we can look at building that into the content roadmap. And also, if you want to get involved in the project and in that content development, then I would encourage you to put your hand up, and we can work with you on that as well.
Great. Okay. And our third question on Empower was, will the training be available and suitable indeed for colleagues who are considering a career with Westcon Comstor Marketing? I guess either coming in from externally or perhaps, and hopefully transferring into marketing from other functions.
Yeah, I think it will. I think we are being very open with who can access the programme. A lot of the programme is probably designed for the marketing manager, or the field marketing or a marketing manager function within the business. But I would encourage anybody within our overall marketing function to access it. And if there are other people in the business who are interested, then there's no reason why they couldn't have access to the programme itself. Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've taken no further questions through the comments box here, so we can probably draw a line under Q&A for now. But as Runa said, there's an opportunity through that Empower email address to add follow-up questions if you need, or of course you can contact Runa directly and have a conversation about it, which is always preferable. So thank you, Runa.
Thank you.
We're going to move on now to quickly announce another feature that's potentially available to us in Venue as a platform before we close out the Mpower section, which was we can interactively construct things like word clouds from the delegates' input. So what we'd like to ask you to do right now is just in, we'd say a single word, maybe two if you really feel the need, in the box to the right of your screen, just enter in 1 or 2 words your feelings, reactions to the Mpower training program as Runa's explained it. And you'll also see the opportunity to vote other people's input up or down. So if you want to get yours to the top, make sure it's compelling, and you can vote on the relative priority or importance of those words as you see them. So let's move on to the next screen and see how that builds. Okay, that's going to take a few more seconds to complete its build while you're entering the keywords you thought of. But I think you can see there, interesting combination of powerful, yeah, which we're really glad to see. That's very gratifying to see that people think it's a powerful offer. But also the second most popular word apparently appears to be needed. Yeah, so maybe we've got that right as well. So hopefully we've got the spread of it right. Okay, needed's gone to #1, as you can see. So I think getting that combination of it being necessary and hopefully a powerful response to what people think they need is evidence that we've got this about right. But obviously the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So as we launch tomorrow, get engaged on it, give us your feedback, and hopefully we can deliver on both of those promises. But you can see indeed that Venue as a platform offers some quite interesting capabilities for interaction and engagement, and also a means to develop content that can be used further on down the line as well. Okay, I think we'll close the word cloud there. Thanks for your inputs. We're going to just briefly pause to announce the winner of our entry puzzle. I know this person to be extremely smart and quick-minded, so it's no great surprise to announce that the Puzzle Up winner was Michelle Teja. Combination of fewest moves and quickest time. Well done, Michelle. You puzzle like you market. Okay, I talked about some of the compelling features of Venue, so now it's time to drill down on that and get into a bit more detail. So again, I'm going to hand back to Runa, and she will subsequently introduce Tony Riley to talk about the ComStore experience of using Venue. But let's start with a look at the platform in more detail. As I said at the beginning, there'll be some poll questions later on in this section regarding your thoughts about Venue as a platform and how you might use it, and an opportunity at the end in the Q&A to ask us questions interactively. But Runa, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so yeah, again, really pleased and excited to be able to have this opportunity to talk to you about Venue, about the project that we've been working to support our virtual events capability. And beyond that, for you to actually be able to be experiencing it firsthand. Before I touch on the work that the project team has been working on and talk about what we're preparing for the launch into the broader business around Venue, I just wanted to take a step back and touch on some of the reasons why we're actually putting so much effort and focus on virtual events within our business. So, as you all know, COVID-19, the pandemic, has dramatically changed our working experience. And through a combination of travel restrictions, social distancing requirements, remote working, it just wasn't possible to run the in-person events that we as a business, alongside many other businesses, many of our vendor partners, were accustomed to running. And so we had the choice really to either cancel, to postpone, or to pivot those events from in-person events to virtual. And we've done that in a number of examples there. And as you can see from the slide there, events are actually a significant part of our go-to-market. I mean, that won't be a surprise to you as marketeers. When I look back at our spend, our marketing spend over FY20, something like 70% of our overall marketing spend actually went towards events. So they are really, really a significant part of what we do as a business. And as we started to explore the virtual events opportunity and the capabilities that we might have, we quickly, I think, realized that we had a much longer term opportunity to create differentiated experiences for our partners and for our employees, taking a digital first approach to those events and the content and the engagement that we're looking to drive. And actually, there are new opportunities that we can experience and realize through virtual events. And equally, I think our customers will also recognize that it's not necessary to travel to every single event. So even if we see some of the in-person events coming back, I still think that we will have much more longevity around virtual events than that kind of immediate requirement. There are sustainability, environmental benefits, cost benefits. And as we said, just the opportunity that you can get to reach wider audiences, to scale the events, it gives us a really compelling opportunity. And I think with the platform that we've got here, which is unique to Westcon Comstore, we really do have a very exciting and unique opportunity to do this. So we could just move to the next slide. I wanted to talk to you about some of the work that the project team that is dedicated to virtual events has been working on. And you can see here the members of that team. Now, this team actually formed on the back of the previous marketing community session we ran last quarter. And these people are the people, many of whom are on this call today, who put their hand up and said that they were interested in virtual events. They recognized the importance of the opportunity and wanted to be involved in the work to build out our proposition. And so we've been meeting on a regular basis and doing a number of things, sharing ideas and our thoughts about what's important for the business in relation to virtual events, building out our proposition, the branding, the visuals, content and training, which I'll touch on in a moment, looking at some pilot events and what learnings we can take from that. And this team will really be subject matter experts as we start to roll out the virtual events and the venue proposition into the broader business and with our vendor partners. So there's some great work that's gone on, and I want to again thank you, the guys in this project team, for the work that you've invested so far. So if we just move on, in terms of the actual platform and proposition itself, well, you'll have experienced that firsthand today, and hopefully you're enjoying what you see and what you're experiencing. The platform is hugely flexible. It can scale to very large, complex events and scale down to very small, intimate events as well. And the opportunities were actually kind of staggering, really, once we started to explore this. So, and indeed, actually, when we started to talk to Mike and his team, some of the events they were running with other clients were really on really large scale exhibitions, which are not perhaps the most common things for us to do as a business. So what we tried to do is identify the most typical events that we saw as being important for our business. And you can see them here. Things like vendor webinars, which I think are probably the most common type of event that we run. Quite a simple event, but absolutely critical to how we support our vendors and amplify their solutions and programs into the marketplace. Partner roadshows, which I guess typically we would have done in person, could be multi-vendor, maybe a wider audience, and a little bit more variety in terms of the event spaces that we would use. Solution design workshops would typically be run by our pre-sales community and looking more at the technical aspects around a particular solution. And then again, looking at a very intimate but interactive type of event in the roundtable or advisory council, you know, typically with an executive audience, and really being able to have that effective two-way conversation and discussion through those events is critical. Planning meetings, we do this at a large scale, and Tony will talk about his experience of doing this with Cisco in a few moments. But if you think about the QBR sessions that we run with our vendors, we're constantly engaging with our vendors through planning meetings, and we think there's an opportunity to do this in a virtual environment. And then, of course, with all hands in the town halls, these are internal events and can be done within a certain region or across the organisation. And thinking about how we can use some of the elements to support those opportunities as well has been a focus. So there's multiple event spaces that we can use. There's multiple interactive elements, which you will have experienced some and will continue to do so throughout this event. And they can be pulled together to support the different types of events that we will run. And if we move to the next slide. We've been using some of these pilot events to test out some of those capabilities. And you can see there's a number of events that have already run. In South Africa, Saki and her team did an excellent town hall, which I think was the first event that we ran on Venue. So as usual, groundbreaking and pioneering some digital technologies there. We followed close on the back of that with the EMEA All Hands, which I guess most of you would have attended. And then the other events that we've run include the Cisco kickoff meeting, which Tony will talk about, this community event itself, which we're running today with our EMEA marketing teams, and then tomorrow with the APAC teams. And then again in South Africa, the team ran a Cisco Comstore Small Business Summit last week. And we have one more event coming up called Imagine Africa, which will take place in August. Now, these events, as I said, have really enabled us to road test and experience firsthand what it means to plan and deliver and manage end-to-end those virtual events. And we've got a lot of learnings from that. We've also been developing integrations, first off with WebEx into Venue. And then the other important development, which you'll be able to hear more about very soon, is around an event build wizard. Now, this will really help us scale some of those standard events where we've built out the templates through these pilot events. We have the elements built in, and you'll be able to very easily configure your own event. So that will cut down on the support you need. It will make you much more self-sufficient. And with some of the training that we're delivering, you should be able to scale and operate your own virtual events very effectively. Of course, there may still be opportunity and requirements to run more complex and bespoke developments, and we can absolutely facilitate those as well. So I mentioned that we've been working on a number of supporting initiatives to help build a program around Venue and the virtual events platform. From a content perspective, one of the things we recognize is that running a virtual event actually takes quite a lot of effort. There's a number of learnings that we've had firsthand, but also in researching, best practice around running virtual events. We felt that pulling these together into a playbook, which is a kind of a collection of those best practices, would really help you in your roles and in your own events. So there's some really great actionable content in there, which takes you through every step of that event lifecycle, from planning an event, from advice on how you can drive engagement with your audience through your events, thinking about how to create digital content with a digital first mindset, making that content really dynamic and appealing and engaging for your audience. And then also thinking about what preparation presenters might need. They need to be familiar with the technology before they go on and present. And there's a number of tips that we can share with presenters, which you can use for your own events. And then another point I think, which is really critical and important, is how we use data. The fact that the events are virtual, they are digital, gives us access to a very broad range of data points. And we can use these in a number of ways. So it may be in terms of, understanding the engagement through the event. That might help us with content marketing. It might help us shape future events. It also might help us with lead generation, and we need to involve our sales teams in following up on those opportunities after an event. And in the playbook, there's a lot of tips and practical advice on how you can run your events effectively. To touch on some of the other things, there's some case studies that we're building. We're building materials which will help with sponsorship and getting investment from our vendors through virtual. And then also looking at a couple of videos which will help explain our proposition, and an event show reel, which will actually then showcase some of the events that we have now run. So a lot of exciting stuff going on there. The next important point, and this is really where our Empower programme and Venue collide, is around training. Now, I know from firsthand working with Venue and on the virtual events and being involved in some of those pilot events, that a lot of work goes into these. And we really wanted to make sure that we're sharing those learnings with you effectively. So we have 4 modules which will be available through Empower, which will take you through why virtual, the benefits of virtual, looking at those best practices right across that virtual events life cycle, as we've discussed today, and then deep diving into the platform itself. So you'll be able to experience firsthand the venue experience, from a delegate experience, from a presenter experience, and then for those of you who really want to be self-sufficient in producing and managing your virtual events, we'll also have some kind of VIP production training, which will be available, and Mike and the team will support you through that. So the training is in development now. It will be available from the week of August the 17th, and I would really encourage you to take the training, and hopefully you'll find that very helpful in terms of your own virtual events planning and delivering those events yourselves. Okay, so in terms of kind of engagement and just some kind of practical points here, for the moment, if you have an idea and you're inspired by what you've seen here today and you think you have an opportunity to run a virtual event, in the short term, I would really encourage you to contact me directly, and we can talk about the opportunity and the best way to facilitate and support that opportunity. When we launch, and we are looking to launch to the broader business from the beginning of Q3, we will have an online request process in place. So that will enable you to register your virtual event, qualify the opportunity, utilize the event wizard builder if that's appropriate, and progress your virtual event. In terms of commercials, we are working on some pricing to support the virtual events as we take this out to our vendor partners. So there will be fixed pricing for some of the standard events, and looking at those if you want to run them as a one-off event, or indeed if you want to build out a series of virtual events and offer them on a repeat basis with our vendors. And of course, as I said, sometimes we'll have more complex custom events, and we would look on a price on application and discuss that with you as we are scoping out that event requirement. The training, as I mentioned, is available from the 17th of August. We will launch start of Q3. We're building out a supporting communications campaign, both for our internal stakeholders, but also taking some of those messages out to the marketplace so that we can really start to build our credibility around that virtual events capability. Now, I do think this is a fantastic opportunity for us. The capabilities of the platform are significant, and I would encourage you to think innovatively, think creatively about how you might build virtual events into your planning process if you're not doing so already. Okay, thank you. And on that note of creative and innovative thought, we're going to spend some time talking to Tony Riley, who, as you know, is our EMEA Comstore Marketing Director. And Tony really took the bull by the horns in terms of running with the virtual events idea. And I was lucky enough to join this event back in June, and it really was a great experience. Again, quite early on in the realms of running these events, and I thought the team did a really great job. So Tony, if we could, hi Tony.
Good morning, Rena.
Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
So Tony, just wanted to share your thoughts and experiences really with the team here today. If you wouldn't mind, could you just sort of position why you decided to go down the virtual route in the first place?
Yes, so Cisco's financial year is slightly odd and different, first of all, to our own and actually to many organizations. So the financial year actually ends the end of this week. So FY21 for Cisco starts from next Monday. And as part of that, there is a big kickoff for the year, which is done round about the summer time frame. And the date was pretty much as an in-person 2-day event, primarily for country managers, senior executives across Cisco, Comstor, and David comes along as well. And it's a high-level interactive event. So obviously with COVID-19 in place, we still wanted to do something, ensure that we're strategically aligned, ensure that there are plans in place, and everybody knows what they're doing as we go through. I became aware of this platform, Runa, through yourself, Paul, Saatchi, and so on. And I wanted to ensure that we could keep the momentum of the kickoff. It couldn't be in person for obvious reasons, but we wanted to do something a little bit different. And when I became aware of the platform, I saw it as contemporary. I saw it as professional. I saw it as something a little bit different. Typically, going virtual enables you to be more flexible and more agile. And whilst we had 2 days fixed in people's calendars, and they were fixed there from a long period of time, in a virtual environment, we actually didn't need to be restricted in that way. So we still wanted to have the ability to do the things we wanted to do as best as we could and try and keep things engaged, but to be flexible that the platform would allow. So that was primarily the reason that we wanted to do that. It also gave us the ability to broaden the audience, and typically a 2-day in-person event, people flying in, accommodation, meals, that's the biggest part of the expense that goes into that aspect. And obviously we were able to broaden the message to many, many more people. In fact, we had probably need 3 times the number of people that could dial in at some point to the virtual event versus what it would be in person. That's always one of the big benefits. One of the things that we're always conscious of is keeping people engaged for that period of time, which is where this platform actually really helps. The word cloud I saw earlier, I didn't actually know that existed as an example. So there's always something, the more we use this, the more things come through.
So on that note, Tony, tell us a little bit about the solution that you actually landed on delivering, because I think there was a lot going on through those 3 days. And for those people who don't know, the audience for your kickoff is predominantly a sales management audience. So potentially shorter attention span. But being able to keep that engagement through those sessions, I think, was really important. Could you tell us how you went about doing that?
Yeah, so we had, as you would with a normal event, we had a core team to try and design it and make it happen. So we had a mini core team and an extended core team, and we debated and discussed how best to do this. We decided to land on doing 3 4-hour sessions on 3 separate days, all within a week of each other, conscious that, as I mentioned, coming up towards Cisco's financial year end is very, very busy time for the Comstor side of the house and actually Cisco. So this was sort of mid-June, so 6 weeks or so before the end of the quarter, just as momentum's really building. So we were super conscious of people's time, but we did it all within about 7 working days. And one of the great things that allowed us to do is the first session we did, which is a 4-hour session. We captured a lot of learnings ourselves from that 4-hour session. We had a wrap up with the Digital Clarity team immediately following each of those, and then we made fine-tune amends to day 2, and then we did the same again on day 3. So for us, it was a familiarity and a learning, but we wanted it to be as engaging as possible. That was a really important aspect. The gamification, we also did the picture puzzle, but there are actually a number of different options within that. I think there's a Wheel of Fortune spinning wheel, and there's a whole bunch of different options. We decided to do the option around a picture puzzle, and we picked an executive from Cisco on one day, and then an executive from Comstor another day, and the main facilitators on day 3, and that also sort of helped. We were able to, for some of the executives, they weren't able to attend in person, either due to time zones or calendars. So we did pre-recorded videos, and we're able to show those through, which gives it's like a professional broadcast platform, to be honest. The presenters typically go into what's called a backstage. It's like a green room, if you can imagine that, if ever you've done any media before. So which is slightly different. It makes the presenters feel, I don't know if it's special, but it's a slightly different experience to what you would normally do when you present either on MS Teams or Zoom or obviously WebEx, in our perspective. But we try to do lots of different types of engagement. One of the biggest engagements we tried and did, which with mixed results, to be honest, was a virtual whiteboard. Personally, I loved it. And it's a familiarity aspect rather than anything else. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the virtual whiteboard is a plugin that's as part of the Venue platform. And it enables the audience to actually put post-it notes onto a virtual whiteboard. It tests the skill and knowledge of the facilitator more than just the subject matter itself. So one of the learnings definitely is about ensuring that the individuals who are facilitating that are facilitators, as much as knowing the content, and maybe we'll come on to that in some of the learnings. Yeah. But it allowed us to do many different things. That the live magic performance, actually, I picked that one up from the South African team, Saatchi, because I fortunately I was presenting on that very first event that you put on the screen earlier, Runa, that Rak did in his town hall. So I was able to get a little bit of an experience myself of it. And there's nothing like getting an experience in order to, touch it yourself. And if you touch it yourself and you see it yourself, then you can see how you can apply that. So we saw that guy, who was brilliant, by the way, and he's adapted himself really to, he's absolutely, I don't know how he does those things that he does, but he's absolutely brilliant. And we decided to incorporate that within our event as well. So lots of different main presentations as you would normally do. Again, from the presenter side, what's quite good on this, which is different to an in-person event. Typically an in-person event, when you've got an important big audience in front of you, you have all the presentations, you have them several days in advance, you load them onto a laptop, and then you run it from the presentation laptop type of thing. On this aspect, we tried to keep to that principle of having the presentations in advance, but actually each individual presenter was able to share their own screen and share their own slides. And one of the good things on that is people are always making last-minute changes to any presentation. So this allowed actually a little bit more flexibility from the presentation perspective. The consequence of that is presenters themselves just being a little bit more familiar with the platform and how best to present their material. And there's still a few little learnings that we can do to apply that. So it was about giving it as variation as much as possible to stimulate the engagement.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, isn't it? To try to think about that regular interaction engagement and to do that in a varied way. And I think you achieved that. And just on that live magic performance, I saw Larry, I think his name is, on the town hall with Rak, and also on your event, and he is phenomenal. So if there is an opportunity to share that out with the community, I would encourage you guys to have a look at this. I think Saatchi is actually using him again in the Imagine Africa event, but it really brings the event to life and is super engaging for everybody. So
I think we should take a commission. We should take a commission, actually, Rune. I think we're acting as an agent for him.
So listen, so that all sounds really great, Tony. And you obviously could road test a number of the elements which are available with the Venue platform.
Yeah.
In terms of the results that you could recognise, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So apart from the number of people attending, which is something in itself, so it allows, I feel, a far bigger number of the organisation to really hear firsthand the strategic direction of the organisation and the plans that we have moving forward. So people felt much more part of that. As it is an internal event, we would expect pretty much everybody from the Comstore side of the house to attend, which they pretty much did. But actually, a very large number of the Cisco attendees, remember, a lot of these are executive people, the vast majority of those attended as well, which is quite good. We did, apart from lots of instant polling, and we'll maybe talk about that in a second, we also did a traditional post-event survey. And one of the questions we were asking is their experience of the virtual event. What did they feel overall? Not a specific presentation, but the overall feel over the 3 days. And we asked them to rate that on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is poor and 5 is excellent. And the rating came back as 4.74, which actually is really incredible if you think about it. 4.74 on a scale of 1 to 5. And I think that touches on the fact that right now there's a bit of a window, I think, of this being a little bit different. It's definitely professional and contemporary, as I mentioned before, but it gives so much more flexibility of so many different vehicles and mediums. And I think it made a dramatic impact to what it would have been in a virtual environment where we would have had a series of WebEx sessions typically.
Yeah.
As good as WebEx is, and it is, it's not a broadcast platform. Yeah. It doesn't allow all those different things. So I think that really made a massive difference, actually. The gamification, I think we probably could have made more of that, to be honest. Again, learning how that did, and certainly seeing the word cloud, I think that's really good as well. The virtual whiteboard, that's the one where it was mixed. Some people absolutely loved it, probably more the geeky bits, the people, and the people who have a bit of techno fear, they're the ones that went, what's going on? So when you have the virtual whiteboard, to me, I think our biggest learning was that we put too many people into those groups. The virtual whiteboard for a much smaller group, and I think it's brilliant for brainstorming in your own team, brainstorming with maybe groups of 10 to 12 maybe. We had groups of up to 50. And that was part of our learning. And until you do it, you don't know those things. So when you have a group of up to 50, and the second day we trimmed it down, it was up to 30, but it was still a big group. There is a lot going on the screen. You have your own Post-it note and you physically type in your own keyboard and it comes up on the virtual whiteboard. So it is a great thing, but managing that, it can look fairly frenzied when you've got that number of people posting Post-it notes at the same time. So that's something, but I still believe that is a good plugin to have, and it definitely adds variation to the way that it works. So overall, the qualitative feedback as well, by the way, not just quantitative, was really, really good. Again, Cisco as our only vendor, absolutely perceived us as by far and away the most forward-thinking of any of their other distributors by a country mile. And Cisco and some of their other sort of partners have inquired, can they also use or buy into this platform? So I think we as an organization have, I call it a window of opportunity, because inevitably others will see it in a period of time. I'd absolutely go for it, utilize it. It makes you different, but at the same time you just got to put the amount of attention into it as you would an in-person event.
So Tony, I think sort of the results well, they speak for themselves. They were fantastic, and even though it was an internal and a planning session with Cisco, perhaps you expect them to be higher than with partners. I still think they were exceptional. So well done. And I think as you've mentioned, there are learnings to be taken forward in terms of the next events that you'll look at. What would be your key call outs, thinking about the people in this community who may be thinking about virtual events, who haven't already run them? What would be the key learnings or the call outs that you would want to share with them?
So for sure, this isn't a platform for every use. It's typically, if you've got small, intimate activity and a WebEx or a team session will suffice, this is probably too big a beast to do that. It's interesting, the self-serve platform type of approach that you mentioned, Runa, might give a little bit more insight there. So I haven't seen that as much. So I think that'll be a very interesting development. But it's use this as appropriate, I think is important. And you'll get a lot of functionality in here that sometimes it's about applying it in the way that is needed, I think. I would say that you still need to have preparation time for this. We didn't give ourselves enough runway on this, and I know you can argue that on most things, but there's a lot of things that I think we could have made it even better. And few people think, oh, it's a virtual platform, it's just like a WebEx or Teams. It's far broader than that. Your interaction, particularly with presenters, needs a little bit more time. You want to make the presenter to feel comfortable, and as I said, their experience is slightly different to what they're used to. It's not a difficult experience, it's just a different experience. And once they use it once or twice, it's absolutely fine. There is, if you're actually running this as an event manager or master of ceremonies or whatever phrase you may use, you need to be aware there's a 20-second delay between the live broadcast and then it being shown. And the reason I mention that is we had on one screen what the delegate sees, and we had on a separate screen what we can see. So there's sometime when you bring in presenters in and out, you just need to be aware there's a slight delay for good reason, by the way, but it just makes your logistics just that little bit different. I would absolutely encourage you to always look at it as best as you can from the delegate perspective. Again, when you're presenting, it's a slightly different view, and the delegate experience, you've got lobby, you've got auditorium, you've got things that can flash through, you've got gamification, there's lots of things to interest, but that's something you need to really keep your finger on the pulse on. But the platform itself, I just think there is so much more to it, so agile. The instant polling, I think, is a really, really good feature. We didn't get as many people participate in that as we were anticipating or hoping. And part of the reason for that was the way that it was displayed on screen. And as presenters and people who are behind the scenes, if you're not looking at the delegate experience, you don't see how that's placed. So that's why you need one of your team always looking at that delegate experience, that they can feed through to the people backstage who can then make the amends. So it's just investing your time into the familiarity of the platform means you will get more out of it. And the Digital Clarity team are real experts in making those things happen. And agility is key in terms of things you can do and find out. So it's I'm delighted that we did it. There were a few sort of sleepless nights as you come up to do these things, as you would, as to be expected, as an in-person event. But overall, it was a really positive experience.
Great, thanks, Tony, and thanks for sharing those insights with us. And I can absolutely second and echo some of those comments you made about sort of preparation. This event, and although it's for our marketing community, we're familiar with the content. I think there was still a lot of preparation that needed to go into putting this event together. And the more you put into it, the better the experience, I think, will be for the presenters and also for the, most importantly, for the audience. So I think there's some really good insights there. So thanks for sharing that.
Pleasure.
I think you're going to stay with us, and we're now going to move to another opportunity to ask some questions. Now, this is a slightly different format that you can see here. The questions that have been asked, you can see in a kind of post-it note format. So this is another option within Venue, which you might want to use in your events. If we could invite Paul into yeah, here we go. Hi, Paul.
Thanks, Runa. Thanks,
We've
Tony.
got quite a lot of the questions coming through here.
Yeah, I don't know where you want to start, Runa. We haven't got a huge amount of time left either, so let's move quickly through them. So, do you want to start with the most popular questions? Yeah. Will Venue be the main platform for webinars? And if so, how does it tie in with Pardot marketing automation?
Okay, so I think when we say the main platform for webinars, I think, you know, what you've heard from Tony and myself today, you've really got to think about the use case. So is it just a very straightforward webinar that you're looking to run out, or are you looking for live streaming, rich media content, a greater level of interactivity? In that case, then I would recommend considering Venue, provided you can invest the right amount of time to plan and prep for the event. In terms of the Pardot integration, that is something that the Digital Clarity team are working on in August, so it's on the roadmap.
Okay, great. There's one I'll handle here very quickly. Someone's asked, is the name Venue the final one, or is this a chance to come up with a name that implies it as a Westcon Comstor unique platform? I just want to stress, firstly, Venue is our brand, right? That is our unique brand for it. So we're effectively white labeling a third-party platform, but Venue is the Westcon Comstor brand. So that's what we're sticking with. I guess there's a couple of things here about more technical issues around what the virtual whiteboard was used for. What does an event booth mean? I think those are questions that will take us longer to answer than we perhaps got time for here, but we will take a note of those and come back on some of those, you know, deeper, more substantial technical questions. But coming back to the program, Runa, one of the most popular questions is, when can we use this for our own event?
Yeah, so, well, as you saw and you've heard, there are a number of pilot events that are already running. So we are already using Venue for virtual events. And if you do have an opportunity, then I would encourage you to talk to me, and we can talk about that specific event. In terms of when are we really taking this live out to the business, it will be from the start of Q3, so from September onwards.
Okay, another brief technical question, which I can take, is, can a Venue event be recorded for later viewing or sharing with someone who cannot attend? Yes, it can indeed. We're working on the way in which we're going to archive and publicize those in the future, but all Venue events can be recorded for posterity. I guess one of the, another technical question, Runa, which you might want to take is, does this work with Teams and WebEx?
So the integration with with WebEx is work in progress, almost complete, and will be ready for when we go live. Microsoft Teams is possible on the roadmap. It's not something that's being looked at just yet, but in the future, if we think that's a requirement, then the Digital Clarity team could look at that. But in the first instance, the integration will be with WebEx. Yeah,
but as you can see, we're using the native video facilities of Venue in this case today. And one thing that I've really come to appreciate is the quality of the video and the audio in the Venue platform is extremely high. We can control that actually. If network access is an issue, we can ratchet quality up and down, but the default quality in terms of video and audio is extremely good, as you can see.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those things that we were trying to get our head around this, because obviously working with Cisco, it's got to be WebEx. As it happens, that's all in the background. Your delegate experiences, they click on a link, as everybody has seen, and it takes them in. You don't know and don't see whether it's Teams or WebEx. It's a video conference platform. So the questions actually, to be honest with you, not applicable. Because from a delegate experience, you click on a link and it takes you in. Whether it's Teams or WebEx actually doesn't appear there.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. I think in the interest of time, we're going to have to draw a line under the Q&A for now. We are taking a note of all these questions. They do get stored as part of, stored and analyzed as part of the event delivery. So we'll use them as input to the FAQ, in fact, as we start to prepare that. But we will come back to the community subsequently with more detailed answers on all of those questions. So thank you so much for being so engaged and asking so many questions. But we're already running out of time, so we do have to move on. Tony, thanks very much for your input on the case study. And Runa, thanks for running that session. If we can just move on quickly, we're going to take a moment to announce the award for... Oh, I'm sorry, there's a poll to come. I'm running too fast because we're running out of time. There is a live poll. Runa, do you want to just tee this up?
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, I do think we've got another 30 minutes of the session run. We've got booked until 5:30. So we've got a little bit more headway. No problem.
Glad to hear it.
On this live poll, this is another feature for the venue. So hopefully you'll be able to see an opportunity to vote or to answer your question on your screen. So the first question, we've got 2 questions. The first of the live poll questions is, who of you is planning to run a virtual event in the next 6 months? So if you could answer that question, and then we should be able to see the answers dynamically appear, which is fantastic news for us, because if it had been the other way around, we might be wondering what we're doing here today. Right. Yeah. So great. So nearly 90% of the marketing community are thinking about virtual events in the next 6 months. So that's fantastic. Great to hear. Going up. More people are thinking about it. Well, now 100%.
Fantastic.
Okay. So the next question really is on the back of that, and thinking back to some of those virtual events that we mentioned as being common to our business. Out of these events, which do you think are the most likely for you to run in the next 6 months? So if you could choose your most popular or your most likely event, and again, we should be able to see those results dynamically. There we go. That's quite interesting. Building. Wait till all the votes are in. I think that looks like the final result. Oh, hang on, still moving.
Yeah, I think you're there, Runa.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know if I was expecting the roundtable and advisory council type of event to be so popular. Certainly, I thought, vendor webinars, partner roadshows, quite an integral part of our go-to-market. But that's really interesting and good feedback to have. I'm surprised, perhaps, that there aren't any vendor planning sessions planned. I would include. Oh, hang on, I've got some coming through. But interesting.
Yeah, I mean, also interesting. I was surprised that solution design workshops are as popular as they are. Not because I don't think it's a good idea, but it's great. It's very great. It's great to see that people are thinking in those terms. And I think some of the more interactive elements of the platform, things like obviously the whiteboarding, but also things like voting and assigning relative priorities to ideas or to designs. Clearly that struck a chord with people. And I think that idea of solution design workshops with the right facilitation, and clearly there'll be some preparation and training required to make that really effective, then it's really pleasing to see that people are thinking quite creatively about this.
Yeah. So obviously this poll has been anonymous, but I think, on the back of such a high percentage of people thinking about virtual and actually thinking about the type of events you might be running, if you do have opportunities that you want to talk about, then like I said, please do get in touch, because I'd really be happy to dig into this in more detail with you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Runa. And as I said before, I so rudely interrupted the Q&A with the assumption that we'd run out of time. We will get back to you on those much more detailed questions, some of which I'm sure are related to the interest you've expressed here, and we'll take the time to make sure that you get the correct answers. And of course, you'll have the opportunity in the post-event survey to add additional comments and questions into the free text field in the survey response as well. Okay, thank you, Runa. That was great.
Thanks.
So if we can move on. So people will recall that at the inception of the marketing community calls, I talked about the idea that we would have an award for individuals that demonstrate great achievement and commitment to what they're doing as part of the marketing team. And this is what we refer to as the Market Star Award. And so I'm really pleased this is the first time we've had the opportunity to award one of these. Just to set this up a little bit, too late. They beat me to it. I think we all saw that, whoever queued it up. So one of the things that about marketing, of course, is that, and a lot of stuff that we've talked about today is external to the marketplace, to our customers, to our partners, and so on. But there's a huge amount of work that goes on in the back office. Particularly around the area of marketing operations and the way in which our processes and our administration gets fine-tuned. We improve those processes, and we report the effectiveness of our marketing up into the wider business. So, as you may have just got a brief glimpse of, I'm very pleased to announce that the first inaugural Market Star Award for EMEA goes to Vanessa. So Vanessa joined us in Runa's team a short while ago in the marketing operations. Has done an amazing job in helping us analyze not just how we're spending money, but what we're spending it on. You'll be hearing more about this in due course as we start to take a more detailed look at our marketing investments and how to fine tune and optimize them. And Vanessa's been absolutely fundamental in helping us achieve that. So Vanessa, congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. I'm very pleased to make this award to you. The award itself will take the form of a reasonably sizable Amazon voucher for you to use as you see fit. But we hope you enjoy it. And as I said again, thank you for all your hard work. So just to close, if we can zoom in on that, I want you to help us think about what would be useful and valuable topics for future community calls. And we've set a few ideas out here based on the survey we ran previously and your responses to it. And these all relate to current initiatives. So somewhere in the team right now, we are working on these areas. So Voice of the Customer is about to get quite interesting and serious for us in Q3. In fact, I think it's almost inevitable that we'll touch on that as one of the topics in next quarter's call, because it is both topical and current, and I think will be of great interest. We're doing more and more work around proposition development, and by that we mean how is it that we analyze, think, and plan about the value propositions that Westcon Comstor is developing, not just the vendor's product, but what is it that we're doing from a service and an offer perspective that creates our own intellectual property and our own value as far as vendors and customers are concerned. As I'm sure many of you are aware, we're undertaking significant work around digital transformation of our customer experience. Catherine Wignall joined us back in the spring and is making great inroads with that particular set of work. But again, we want to make sure that we're understanding that from your perspective and sharing your insights on it as well. I believe there's a lot of work to do around branding and brand architecture, as I call it. We've seen a proliferation of ideas and creativity around the community, which is great, and we want to make the best possible use of that, learn from it, reuse it. But at the same time, we don't want our brand identities and our brand in the market to become diluted or inconsistent. So how do we make the right balance between the creativity and avoid proliferation of brands and identities that might tend to dilute what we're doing in the future? So that, again, work to do there. Again, many of you are already embarked on work with Runa and Atul around intelligent demand. as a program. As you know, that's the application of data and analytics thinking to the way in which we might profile and target installed bases of technology, customer type, vertical, and so on, and build more effective marketing campaigns as a result. And again, I'm sure you've got either experience with that or thoughts on how you might choose to use it in the future. And finally, we are working quite closely with the HR team on understanding what it means to build a very positive employer brand and to have both internal and external advocates for that in the marketplace, because we see that as a way to secure and retain the best possible talent for us as a business in the future, not just inside the marketing community, but across the business as a whole. So there are some strong candidates. I can think of a couple of those that we almost certainly want to follow up on in some detail in the next call. But ultimately, we don't want this, as I said in the first call, we don't want this to be just a one-way street. This is not a lecture from us to you. We want this to be interactive. We want it to be collaborative. So please use the post-event survey to tell us what you believe to be important. And more importantly, again, if you're willing to contribute as a participant, you can make a presentation. We could structure it as an interview to make it a little bit easier on you. But if you have a topic either relating to those areas there or one of your own that you would wish to share with the community, please tell us, and we will make you a very welcome guest in a future community call. It'll be a great way to experience how the Venue platform works as an experience from your point of view, and I'm sure it will deliver great value to our participants. So that event survey should be on your screens right now. If not, if you don't see it or don't get a chance to complete it right now, we'll also send it out through a post-event email. But I urge you to share your feedback with us and tell us what you think you'd like to see in future, and very specifically, if you can contribute as a presenter or interviewee in a future call. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much to Runa and to Tony for participating today. Thank you for your attention. I hope you've enjoyed interacting with us through Venue. There's much more it can do, as I'm sure you were thinking when we saw your questions. We will get back to you on those, but in the meantime, get thinking about that 100%. We took a note of that. 100% of you are now planning virtual events. So we are going to come back and check on what you're doing. As I said, thanks for attending. Have a great rest of your day. We look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.